Yesterday on the show, I announced that I had just gotten the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So of course, news this morning, the US is going to be pausing the administration of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Apparently, after 6 recipients in the US developed a rare disorder involving blood clots within about 2 weeks of vaccination. So that was announced by federal health agencies, but it was picked up and run with by a number of governors. Within 2 hours of the announcement, Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio, a Republican, advised all health providers in his state to temporarily stop giving it. New York, Connecticut, Nebraska, and other states quickly followed suit. So it went from announcement from federal health agencies to a number of states actually stopping it almost instantaneously. We don't know much yet about what is happening, but we do know that all 6 recipients were women between the ages of 18 and 48. 1 woman died, and a second woman in Nebraska has been hospitalized in critical condition. So we're gonna give you more context, but Dan, immediate response to this, they are stopping it in a number of states, at least for now.
Yeah, I'd like to say in an era of a lot of confusion about the science of COVID-19 and even vaccines in general, I just like to say that this is part of science where I think it's a good reaction from the medical and scientific community to, even at this very broad scale, watch this very closely. And I know like millions of Johnson & Johnson doses have probably been like administered, but if they're even noticing 8 in these and they're halting it nationwide, that seems to believe that the government and Johnson & Johnson are trying to take this seriously, because obviously they want this rollout to end up leading to adverse side effects since it's a vaccine. So I would say countering a lot of people who this will usually fall into the, see, this is why I'm vaccine skeptical, or see that this is why I don't even trust the vaccines because it's all a hoax anyways. Like, I think we need to understand that the science hasn't been perfect through this, but part of the scientific process is constantly testing, constantly peer reviewing, and then constantly updating that knowledge. It's just that now we're having this happen out very publicly because it's a health emergency. I think it's important that people kind of get that clear just to begin with.
Yeah, oh God, it's difficult, but I would say that I feel a little bit different, and it's entirely possible that they have access to information that we don't have yet. That is entirely possible. That said, I'm not a doctor. Don't take medical advice from me. Don't take legal advice from me. Don't take financial advice from me. You know what? Don't take political advice from me. Honestly, don't take any advice. I'm not an expert. I talk into a camera on YouTube. That said, 1 woman died and another was hospitalized. There have been nearly 7 million doses administered in the US. Roughly 9 million more have been shipped out. That seems like really low odds. As people are pointing out in the chat, like hormonal birth control seems like it has a significantly higher chance of giving you blood clots than the vaccine. And my fear would be, so obviously the last thing they want is it continuing to go out, more people get blood clots, it turns into a huge story like the AstraZeneca one, and everybody is like scared away from the Johnson & Johnson shot. That's what they don't want. Here's my worry that I think a lot of people have. They're gonna pause it, okay. In a week, they started again. How do people feel about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine? Let's say it's cleared. Let's say in a week, they're like, we looked into it. Those were all of the blood clots. The odds are literally a one in a million, or even worse than 1 in a million. People are so predisposed to be terrified. I don't know, I worry that they're like, there's no coming back, or there's no totally coming back from a decision like this. What do you think?
I don't think we're in disagreement. I think it's just a very nuanced case where, yeah, I don't think there is. You're going to, because of broader structural issues surrounding like news literacy and the belief that we can all kind of come and approach the news, and based off of reading 1 or 2 things, not everyone checks sources or kind of takes a step back and pauses. That's why, like, to some extent, just speaking to a camera in front of YouTube requires an amount of composure, John, that I think a lot of people respect you for. But it's, yeah, you're gonna see people who are reading these reports out of context. And I just got something from my mom last night, who my entire family through our health insurance provider got the Moderna vaccine. And from for her, she was reading that the mRNA type vaccines are only good for about 6 months. So she's thinking that she's gonna have to get like a third round, right? But the truth is that like the science can say it's good for at least 6 months, maybe more, but the trial hasn't gone that far yet. So we're not gonna be able to like say for sure, you know? And so those are nuances that get lost when we kind of just have this like everyday reading of the news that we work on, as opposed to trying to take these things as like soberly as we can. But yeah, you're right. Like a lot of people are going to see this news and they're going to be kind of afraid of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. That being said, a lot of people were like, oh, mRNA vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna are new, and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is one shot, and I just want the one shot and to go with it. So it's going to deter some people, but others it won't. It's just that like these things are messy. Like it's hard to manufacture things at scale quickly and not have problems. It's an extra level of concern because this is biological things that we're injecting into our body, which is why I think that so far it seems that Johnson & Johnson, the federal government, are taking the proper precautions. And at least right now, I don't suspect something where it's like Johnson & Johnson's like Boeing, and they were trying to work with the federal government to make sure that they could fast track their approval, knowing that there were these issues and problems. Kind of like you said earlier, there's hopefully not, but like you said earlier, there's blood clots and these things like that happen in a lot of other different cases as well. So it's good they're being safe. I applaud them for being safe, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And the only other thing I would add is Dan's entirely right. This is nuanced. Well, like this is nuanced. I'm not worried about this. I'm not worried about necessarily their statements or our conversation. We're trying to be nuanced because we don't want people to get sick from either COVID or from blood clots. My worry is that it will stop being nuanced probably right now on Fox, definitely tonight. How do you think Tucker Carlson's coverage of this announcement will go? Do you think it will be nuanced? He's been fear-mongering about the vaccine for months. Candace Owens, who has millions of followers and has become a massive anti-vaxxer, is she gonna be nuanced? That would be my fear. Now,
fair enough.
The thing that's my fear. So then the counterpart to that is nobody watching them was going to get it anyway because they've already been scared away from the vaccine. So I don't know, there's a lot of things working back and forth. What I will say though is when I hadn't yet gotten the vaccine, like this viral thread went around, Dan, that Cal State LA had you could get it there. And a bunch of people tagged me on it, which is so nice that people on the internet care if I get the vaccine. And then as soon as this story came out this morning, tons of people sent it to me. John, I heard that you got the Johnson & Johnson. Are you worried about this? That is so sweet that all these people are worried about me getting a blood clot. I'm taking it easy. We're gonna see what happens. I don't fit the profile for the people who got it. And I got news for you. If I get a blood clot, it's more likely all the other things I've done to my body through the course of my life. There's a lot of stuff.
Well, anyway. Folks, I've seen John's desk when it's a tough week and he needs his snacks. There's a lot other things coming in John's direction besides this vaccine. But thank you for the consent.
Thank you.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.